So we go to the next slide, please. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time on this slide and just talk about what are some of the courses that are available from McKeon in cybersecurity, so the micro-credential programming. Who are the target people for particular courses? And then what are the career opportunities with each of the courses that can help you on your career trajectory from a cybersecurity perspective? So we do have 3 micro-credential programs, then they sort of stack one on top of another. The first one is the Certified Secure Computer User, or CSCU, as for an acronym. And this is really targeting anybody that's connected to the web, to the internet today. It's really a course that provides an overview of cybersecurity concepts and best practices. And what we aim to do is equip students with the necessary knowledge and skills so they can protect the information. And so that's everything from identity theft, credit card security, OS and cloud security, because more and more of us are using Teams and Zoom, data protection securely, working remotely, as I'm doing today, and then also having a plan for disaster recovery. And so from a career perspective, really, we see this as enhancing a resume. A lot of organizations today that are larger do have periodic training. Smaller organizations would absolutely see this as a benefit on your resume because they are looking to bring people in. Certainly as well, if you're doing software development, having that notion in your mindset is very important as well. So really that's the entry point into cybersecurity, but it's targeting anybody that's connected. From a more career-oriented perspective, the second and third program, Certified Cybersecurity Technician, CCT, and Certified Network Defender, CND, those are more tailored towards specific careers in cybersecurity. So I'll go through both of them, just spend a couple of minutes there. Cybersecurity, CCT, the Certified Cybersecurity Technician, this is more of a broader program providing technical insights into cybersecurity. Focuses on threat intelligence, skills like identifying and analyzing threat data and looking at what those threat actors might be. It provides students with a wide range of complex issues that can be occurring from a security perspective, whether that's in the network, from an IT perspective, and other common cybersecurity threats that we see. And it provides multifaceted ways to addressing those issues. One of the things most organizations that are larger also do is they will have within their cybersecurity organization, they'll have 2 teams, a red team and a blue team. The red team really sometimes what they will do is look at ways to penetrate the existing security. So they'll ethically hack into the system. And that's what this course sort of focuses on as well. So, it provides an opportunity to enter into a cybersecurity role. It's really tailored for people that are looking for a career in cybersecurity, have some experience in IT or software development, and it provides career paths in the such areas as the security operations center, being a data analyst there, or network engineering or IT management, but focused on cybersecurity and being part of that team with that asset that you can bring. CND, the Certified Network Defender, this one is a more comprehensive course which builds off of CCT, and it really focuses on implementing security policies. So this is the point where you're actually looking to become a cybersecurity professional, focused on maybe even being a consultant within an organization. And some of the skills we try to bring out are like identifying vulnerabilities, responding to incidents, having a path for responding to those incidents as well. It's a very skills-based course as well. It does have a lab-intensive component as well. So it really provides anybody doing the programming some hand skill opportunity to walk away from the course. And this really enhances the resume as well. This is a career path, we do target more people that have been working in network administration and cybersecurity, or people that have come through these programs. And this opens up opportunities, whether it's in network security administration, cybersecurity analyst within an organization, or an information security manager. Those are sort of the career trajectories that program can lead. So just to say that there are 3 programs, they're in increasing complexity in relation to cybersecurity, and depending on where you want to go with cybersecurity from a career perspective, they each provide some level of opportunity for enhancing your resume to really having a more focused career in cybersecurity. So if we go to the next slide, what's our delivery model or modality of learning? Typically for all of our micro-credentials at Kean College, we deliver them online. They are instructor-led, so they're asynchronous format, meaning that an instructor leads the course, it's delivered online. The range of time is typically between 20 and 48 hours for the cybersecurity courses. So the introductory one was 20 hours, and the CCT and CND are 48 hours. We spread them over several weeks. Some organizations will try to squeeze them down to have a more condensed weekend sort of 20 to 48 hour program. What we found was more effective is having 2 to 3 classes per week. Opportunity for upskilling as well for employees worked really well. Sessions are recorded, so if you do miss a session, a student can always get the recording and follow up and get caught up. And at the end, there's a certification exam with a boot camp to help prep for that examination. And the outcome are 3 sort of digital badges that come from this certification. And a note that these badges are under the realm of EC Council. So EC Council is the largest standardized body for cybersecurity globally. It's well recognized. So if you do go through the program, you do get a badge. It's not just recognized in Canada or Newfoundland and Labrador, it's recognized globally as it's based on the EC Council programming. And so then my last slide is really just to touch on funding as well. Note, like, each of these courses are a $3,000 value, but through the government of Canada and here in Newfoundland and Labrador, the Find Your Future in Tech program, these are fully funded, i.e. it's no cost to the student or employee to take part in this course. And this has been set up to help really transform the tech talent pool here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's been fully funded through government organization, the Canada Sectoral Workforce Solutions Program. What this enables students to do is very easily go to our website. You can go to this QR code, register for the course. The only stipulation is you need to be a resident of Canada, whether you're a citizen or a permanent resident, and you need to be a resident of Newfoundland and Labrador. The next cohort actually starts on March 4th on Monday. We will likely be doing another cohort as well before the March 31st deadline start date. But the funding for this program does expire March 31st. So what I would say is if you are interested in this course, certainly sign up. We have a limited number of seats, so we're likely run out before that deadline of March 31st. But it's an opportunity where it's fully funded, so certainly take advantage. And in my last slide, if there's any questions or if you need to reach out to me, certainly reach out to my email. I think it was at the beginning of this presentation. It's my first name dot last name @kean.com. And certainly, we're excited to have you as part of this course and to help you on your trajectory in a career in cybersecurity. So I'll pass it back to you, Kara, if there's any questions.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And as partners of the Find Your Future project, highly, highly recommend taking advantage of these funded courses. All right, so next up we have Tim from ICTC, and I'll pass it over to you, Tim.
Awesome, Kara, thanks very much. Thanks everybody for joining us today. AJ, it's interesting. I'm going to be talking about another initiative to try and bring more workers into the sector, because it's definitely something that we need to do, and it's great to see that there's many different ways that this is being done. So if we could just go to the next slide, because not everybody knows who ICTC is. So if we can, so we are the Information and Communications Technology Council. So we're actually a not-for-profit organization. I'm based in Halifax, but the organization's based in Ottawa, but we have about 100 people across the country. And we do a couple of things really well. One of the things is that we do some research looking at labor markets and technology. And I'll show you in just a moment, there's a report that we did that talks about cybersecurity in Canada and talent. But the other thing, which I'd like to think is more important, but others would say equally important, is capacity building innovation, because that's where we actually put programs into place and deliver them, often with government funding, so that we can actually make a difference and help us grow the Canadian digital economy. So we like to think of ourselves as Canada's trusted source of forward-looking research, evidence-based policy advice, and innovative capacity building solutions, all for the digital economy. Next slide, please. So this is the report that I talked about. So a little while back, ICTC actually formed a national organization, a national committee, to look at some of the challenges that were being faced in talent retention and talent development in Canada. So this is the report. And I think WRDC have a link to this report if anybody wants to have a browse of that. I'm just going to highlight a few things that came out of that report. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So just prior to doing that, so we have this ENACT committee, ICTC's National Advisory Committee on Cybersecurity Training. So that was a collaboration between government, academia, industry partners, and it was formed in 2021 when we wanted to take a look at what's going on in the industry. And what was driving some of that was just the amount of issues that were being noticed in the marketplace. Back in 2018, Canada wasn't doing really well. We were about third of 187 countries in terms of our exposure to cybercrime. It's gotten better since then, but cybercrime causes a huge amount of financial loss to the global community. So you can see those numbers there, $6 trillion in 2021. It's growing in 2024, $9.5 trillion. And one of the big challenges is that there's a lack of workers in the sector. And in Canada, 1 in 6 jobs go unfulfilled. Many of those are entry-level jobs. And so that's something important to keep in mind, is that, you know, many people want to hire talent, but they all want to hire, they call it entry-level talent with 5 years experience. That's kind of a bit of an oxymoron. So we want to try and break that myth that people have to have 5 years of experience or more to be able to go and fill some of these entry-level roles. But anyway, one of the things that we did as an organization is that we formed this committee to look at how can we make a difference. And if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so one of the things that we noticed is that, and many of you are likely aware of it, is that in the cybersecurity space, there is a lot of burnout. There's a lot of, what we noticed is that for students in particular, that there's at least half of the female students that responded to our survey, they drop out, right? They start, maybe they start a cybersecurity program, but they drop out for many, many reasons. So there's a lot of dropout, there's a lot of burnout. And there's many challenges, and one of those was that there's a lack of communication between industry and academia, because people are graduating with programs with skills that aren't necessarily matching what the industry wants. So that's why it's great to see what Kian is doing with some of those micro-credentials that are specifically focused on skills that industry partners need. There's also a lot of talent poaching going on. So, COVID made remote working a thing. And now, I mean, while it's great, it also means that there's a large neighbor down south that is poaching our talent. So we need to create more of that talent. Next slide, please. Another real challenge is the lack of diversity in the cybersecurity space. So, I mean, these stats they're not necessarily that different, but I think they're a lot worse than we see in most tech areas. But there's only about 20% of women or of workers identify as women in the cybersecurity space, and the BIPOC community does not do very much better. And in management and leadership roles, there's just a lack of women in those roles. So we need to do something about that. Next slide, please. So this ENACT committee that ICTC formed made a number of recommendations, and they're documented in that report that I showed you earlier. But some of those included engaging more youth and students in the sector and getting more industry engagement, particularly getting them to engage with students at an earlier stage and not waiting until they graduate. So that was one of the things that came out. Next slide, please. So there were a total of 5 recommendations, and you saw all of the 4 were on that previous slide, but this last recommendation was that, it's fine to identify challenges, as I said, but what we need to do is try and do something about it. So, and I do see someone has their hand raised. Perhaps you could just put your question in the chat, and then we can come back to that at the end. That would be awesome. Yeah, so we designed this cybersecurity pilot in conjunction with a couple of partners, including Microsoft. And the goal was to help us create more talent in the sector and also bring more diversity into the sector. Next slide, please. So this cybersecurity training and work integrated learning program that we have, and the image you see there, that's the landing page on our website. So the goal of this, as I said, is to bring more diversity and more workers into the sector. So we're not going after people who are already in cybersecurity programs. We're looking at those students who perhaps are in a business program or some other complementary program. And our goal was to encourage them to think about a career in cybersecurity. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so here are the goals, right? So we want to focus on people that are in complementary programs, but not cybersecurity. And we want to encourage them to and support them in making a decision to go into a career in cybersecurity. So this is while they're still in post-secondary. And so our approach was to partner, and this is the pilot's a 3-phase pilot. So we're in the middle, we're in phase 2 at the moment. We're partnering with selected post-secondaries across the country. Microsoft is a partner and has been a partner in a number of different things that we've done. So they're helping by providing some foundational training, and AJ mentioned some industry recognized certifications, and Microsoft certs are also recognized for those that, well, they're recognized and I think valuable foundational knowledge in that sector. The other thing we felt was important was to provide some mentorship support, and you'll see that we've provided a couple of support in a couple of ways for that. And then the third pillar is engaging the students in a work integrated learning placement in a position that is relevant to the cybersecurity sector. So next slide, please. Yeah, so in terms of the pilot, so as I mentioned, 3 phases. Phase 1 had 50 students. That happened last year. And one of the changes we made in phase 2 was that during the course of the phase 1 pilot, ChatGPT came on the market and changed the game. A lot of people got both threat actors and defenders started to see the value of AI. And so we added actually an additional certification, that AI 900 certification. These are all, and I'll show you what they are in just a moment, but they're all foundational level certifications. And we also wanted to provide some mentorship as well. And we wanted to give them not just any mentor, but we wanted to help them with mentors who were also women, so that they could have that see it, be it mindset, where they can see someone who has their lived experiences and experience perhaps some of the challenges of getting into the sector as a woman, could also share some of those experiences with the students. As you can see, we've got a scale up phase 3 that's planned for coming up later this year. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we have 3 pilot components. So we got that short duration training. We chose to go down the Microsoft certification route. As I said, Microsoft is a partner with bootcamp training for these 3 foundational certifications. I think those micro-credentials that AJ talked about, they're equally valid as well. The mentorship component, as I said, was super important for us. So the Global Mentorship Initiative from Microsoft is a key component. And having some women who are in the sector being mentors for the students was also considered to be super important. And then getting that work experience so that the students could actually experience what a career in cybersecurity could look like, super important. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we're right in the middle. Well, I won't say right in the middle. I guess we're 2/3 along, right? So we have the first cohort of students in phase 2. They all wanted winter placements, and so they're currently in the process of doing that. We are also now starting to gear up and looking for employer partners for summer placements. All of the students have, by this time, they've got their foundational certifications in place. So they have that foundational knowledge. And interestingly, for another presentation that I did this morning, I thought, you know what, I'm going to check with my friend ChatGPT to see what they think about whether or not a student can take on an entry-level work term in a cybersecurity related position. And the answer is, and I'll quote, yes, a student in a related field can often secure an entry-level work term in cybersecurity related position. So ChatGPT thinks that's a thing. But it also went on to say that often those entry-level roles can really benefit from having students that have these varied backgrounds. Maybe it's engineering, maybe it's business. So as long as they've got some foundational skills to give them some industry knowledge, then absolutely they can take those entry-level positions. So that's kind of busting that myth that people need to have years of experience to go into an entry-level role in cybersecurity. And next slide, please. So one of the other things that ICTC, thanks to the Government of Canada, we're able to offer wage subsidy support to eligible employers, and that's pretty much any for-profit or not-for-profit business in the country. If they're able to offer a work term for one of our participants, then we're able to help them financially with a subsidy, and the vast majority of the participants in our program are actually eligible for that underrepresented status of 70% up to $7,000. Next slide, please. And what we're doing is we're putting together a curated list of student talent in resume books by region. And what's really interesting is that many of the students, they've got past work experience, whether they're in co-op or some summer jobs. Some of them, particularly those that are in college, they've got some past degrees from their previous life and maybe some life experience. So if there are employers in the audience that are looking for student talent, this is a great group to consider, because they have made the commitment that they want to go down that road into a cybersecurity career, just like those Keating College students who are taking those micro-credentials have done that. And we've done the hard work of finding those that student talent for you. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is just an example of someone, an NBCC, as it turns out, New Brunswick Community College. Many of the participants in our program are graduating this year. Many of them are graduating next year. But here's someone that brings a ton of other experience that can really be helpful. So these are not always people that are just coming out of university programs. Many of them have lived experiences that can add some value to your organization. I think this is the last slide, please. Yeah. So I guess the message is really that we need more talent. We need more workers. We need more diversity in the cybersecurity sector. There are several ways that we can do that, and Kean is part of the solution. I'd like to think that our program is part of the solution, thanks to Microsoft and the Government of Canada. So please help us bring more workers and diversity to the Canadian cybersecurity sector.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Tim. Next up, we have Lisa from Women in Cybersecurity Society. I'll pass it over to you, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just waiting for you to move the slide. There we go. First of all, I want to thank Women in Resource Development Corporation for this wonderful invitation to speak at your event. I should say good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining across Canada or around the globe. My name is Lisa Kearney, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Women Cybersecurity Society, a nonprofit started in 2018 out of my own need. As a woman working in the cybersecurity industry for over 20 years, there was an extreme lack of support and lack of resources for women specifically, or anyone that's within the diversity, equity, and inclusion support realms, where that was definitely lacking. And I'm really happy and pleased to be here with my other colleagues to tell you a little bit about our organization, what we do, and how we can help those that are on the call, specifically women who might be exploring a career in cybersecurity or already started a career in cybersecurity. Next slide, please. Our mission really is to support women throughout the life cycle of their career. So we provide various programs and services and support mechanisms. We partner with different organizations to really foster diversity, inclusion, and equity, breaking down those barriers and roadblocks that women often experience and that I experienced in my own career. Join us, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can do that to be part of the change across Canada and globally for women in this industry. Next slide. So I decided to put together a little milestone slide to tell you a little bit about some of the things that we've achieved in a short time that we've been within this space. So in April, as I mentioned, I founded the Women Cybersecurity Society simply because I didn't have any support myself. I was experiencing issues and suffering from imposter syndrome, considering leaving the industry. And what I discovered was there were thousands of women around the world that were experiencing the same thing. So then that was in April 2018. Move forward to 2019. We kicked off with our International Women in Cyber Day initiative. It's a global campaign. And in January of that year, we had 200 individuals and over 50 countries join us in the kickoff to celebrate and raise awareness for women in the cybersecurity space. And since then, we've seen numerous organizations, individuals, and groups celebrate International Women in Cyber Day on September 1st. Additionally, we've had great success here in Canada. In particular, 2022, we had 9 out of 10 provinces, with the exception of Quebec, celebrating and recognizing International Women in Cyber Day. And we do have a lady on the call who was a representative in St. John's, Newfoundland, Nancy, who will be speaking shortly. And she accepted a proclamation from the city of St. John's that has proclaimed and been an avid, repeated supporter for this initiative for the last several years. Move forward to 2020, when the pandemic hit, we really had to pivot away from in-person events. So I developed a 12-week cybersecurity for beginners training workshop with a certificate. It was really an initiative to really raise awareness about cybersecurity and to give women an opportunity, or a snapshot of what it would look like if they were considering a career. Because as was mentioned from the previous speakers, there's a lack of diversity, there's a high dropout rate, and the industry it can be tough at times. But we'll talk a little bit more about what supports there are, like I said, further on down the road. Then moving forward to September 21, we launched our first International Women in Cyber Day conference. We partnered with CompTIA, who is a global industry recognized cybersecurity training partner of ours. We are an approved official academic partner with CompTIA. And so we provide training to all of our members and the general public at a high discount of 25 to 30%. If you're a pro member, you do get 30% off all of your training, your certifications, and any other materials that you purchase through us. In addition, in September 2021, in partnership again with CompTIA, we awarded 20 scholarships that were 1 year to women and 1 male candidate from across North America. And they completed a 1-year cybersecurity instructor-led program for Security Plus. And then they were provided with certification voucher, and they got their certifications. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the individuals that took that program and what some of their feedback was later on. Moving forward to March 2022, we decided to become more of an advocate on the side of women globally. So we were officially invited by Wage Canada to become an official delegate of the United Nations 66th Commission on the Status of Women. I'm proud to say that we did attend in 2023 in New York, as well as this year, 2024, we'll be participating again as an official Canadian delegate for the 68th Commission on the Status of Women. And for anyone that wants any more information on how they can attend our parallel event, which is being advertised globally, or get more involved to learn more about that initiative or any other initiative that I speak to, I'll have the contact information at the end of my presentation. It was also during March of 2022 that we launched our first International Women in Cyber Day Founders Award. Founders Award is given out to women who have lifetime achievements within the industry. And for our research, we discovered a remarkable individual, Sylvia Gelman from Ottawa, who is still with us. She's 101 now, and still very much active and cognitive. She was a part of many women during the Second World War efforts who worked in the examination unit, which was a secret bureau of the government of Canada. Now, this was information, and it was all about decoding cryptographic messages between our I guess the enemies, and working with our allies, including Bletchley Park in the UK. Now, Sylvia was one of 40 women. She was responsible for taking the messages from the decoders, transcribing them, and then sealing it in an envelope and running them off to a guard at the back of the building. And I remember one thing that really sticks with me is how she, sealed them with wax by melting the wax in the kitchen in a little container and then sealing it and running it. And at a woman at the time when she was, when I was interviewing her, it was quite remarkable to learn about this effort, 70 years later when the information was released to the Canadian public. But Sylvia Gelman was our first International Founders Award. And I wanted to say a little bit about her because she's remarkable. And you can go to our website blog to learn more about that initiative. Moving forward to January last year, we launched a new volunteer mentoring program. So it was a 5-month program where we brought in 20 specific volunteers. They were mentored one-on-one by myself. Plus they took part in peer mentoring through what we called Volunteer Buddy Connect. And they were able to, connect on a regular basis, schedule, and have an outline to be able to be mentoring themselves and provide that ongoing support, which they're still working with. And then also we transitioned over to the Cyber Millions program, which is an online 24/7 program through Immersive Labs that we partnered with at the beginning of our nonprofit in 2019, which also includes job postings for any individuals that's part of that program. And then now here we are in 2024. We are working on, developing internship opportunities, which is coming. We're participating again in the Commission on the Status of Women. And I'm also proud to say, which you'll see a slide on, but for the 3rd year in a row, we've been named one of top 5 Canadian nonprofit finalists in EDI, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So that's a little bit about us in the last 6-7 years almost for a nonprofit. Next slide, please. So we've seen a few people touch on this. In particular, Tim did talk about the lack of diversity and inclusion. When I talk about the cybersecurity industry, and when we look at 2017, for example, there was a very extensive academic research program, and it was discovered that women only made up 11% of the cybersecurity workforce. Now, before I go any further, I want to explain there is a difference between the workforce and the industry. So where the high demand is actually within the workforce. People that are considered guardians of the galaxy, where they're actually, in the trenches doing the work to defend, against those bad actors and cyber criminals. Now, the difference between the workforce and the industry is you could be a project manager in the industry, you could be a teacher, an educator, a supporter. Like our organization, the nonprofit, we provide programs and services. So we are, a technology provider. So we're in the industry. We are a service provider because we provide support and programs. And myself, because I've been working in the cybersecurity industry for over 20 years, I'm part of that workforce. But there is a difference, and there's an important distinction because that's where the demand is. It's within the workforce. And so in 2019, we also the same around 11%. But in Canada, women only make up about 10% of the cybersecurity industry. I think some of the stuff that Tim was mentioning was on a global scale, and some reports that came out from SANS that actually were identified as a workforce survey, but they were really industry specific survey. And we know that because at the time we reached out to the survey owners and we asked them how did they conduct a study and what metrics were used in that survey instrument to determine the level that they came out with. And there was not just myself, but there were other women in cybersecurity groups that did question the validity, because you don't jump from 11% one year to almost double the next year, or more than double the next year. But globally, women still make up less than, for sure, 20% of the cybersecurity workforce. And so, especially now, there is a lot of opportunities. If you could go back, We see the increase in cybersecurity attacks. We see the increase, I can't see the slide if you could just, there you go, perfect. There's an increase in cybersecurity attacks, and we see this now with the government of Canada, with global affairs, with the second cyber attack this year, or not this year, but last year was one, so that's two. We see that, I think it was the city of Brampton, the city of Toronto recently, also undergoing cyber attacks. And we've seen almost every industry, including healthcare, critical infrastructure. And the government of Canada has joined joint advisory releases they've issued to highlight the importance of staying alert and vigilant for cybersecurity professionals against external foreign actors attacking our critical infrastructure. And we do see that it's a real threat. It's an ongoing threat, and it's not just Canada, but it's all Western nations. So basically the Five Eyes. And so there's plenty of opportunities in the market, and with women being such a low percentage of that workforce, there's plenty of ways to transition over into a career in cybersecurity. And we saw AJ mention, you know, the amazing programs that can be free, the micro-credentials, which are actually really important. A lot of people, they complete academic training or a 3 or 4 or 5 year program, and then they come out of the workforce saying, I don't feel prepared. And I've had lots of women speak to me and reach out to me and say, oh, I have my master's in cybersecurity, but I don't feel equipped. And that's because some of the academic programs, by the time they finish, the information is outdated. And cybersecurity is such a dynamic field, it's always changing. And these micro-credentials, whether it be CompTIA, EC Council, or through Microsoft, or through one of the other colleges in Newfoundland or around the globe, micro-credentials are really, really important. And the same with these certifications through CompTIA that we offer. So we really encourage you, if you're on the line and you're considering a career in cybersecurity, reach out, especially for anything that's free or open. And I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the programs and services that we offer a little bit later on. On to the next slide, please. Looks like, sorry, the slide is black. It's disappeared. I think this slide was really focusing on some of the problems which I touched on. We see, and Tim kind of alluded, you know, in Canada, there's a 50% dropout rate, the research shows, and that's based on an academic study that was 2 years lasted. And it went from coast to coast, from BC to Newfoundland. And it discovered that 50% of women that start their careers in IT, 50% will drop out in the first 4 years, which is unacceptable statistics. And so our organization, through the nonprofit, we're working on changing that. And we're hoping, and I'm hoping now the slide will come up here very soon. You know, that's part of the problem, the high dropout rates, the lack of support and inclusion. And one of the reasons why women drop out, which they identified, is that oftentimes women don't feel supported, or they're not given the same opportunities as their male counterparts in the industry. And they start taking on that persona of imposter syndrome, and they start to feel insecure. And they, you know, then by the time, you know, over and over the same patterns develop, they just kind of drop out. So our organization here, we're the first Canadian women in cybersecurity organization in Canada, and we are a Canadian-based organization. We're developed from a woman, myself, in cybersecurity. So we know what you're going through, and we understand that there are differences for women at various stages of their career throughout the life cycle, someone that's considering transitioning, or if you're looking to advance your career, or if you're looking to you know, enter a position of authority and decision-making, some of the things that Tim mentioned, which are issues in the industry. We need to increase more of that. Come and work with us, create an account, and we'll help advance you along the way. So next slide, please. If you can get those slides up, that would be great. Okay, so here's basically there's 3 steps. You can become a member for free. Just go to our website, and I think the links to joining our organization will be shared within the chat. It's womencybersecurity.org. You click up in the top left right-hand corner, create new account, and then you open your email and confirm, and you're in. And what that does, it provides you with access to a bunch of free resources and tools and opportunities to learn more about the industry and become part of the industry, where you advance your career, where you advance your knowledge and understanding. So it's free to join, and that's the process for becoming part of our organization. On to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our nonprofit offers various volunteer opportunities, whether you are looking to become a board member, working in operations like I've done, whether you're looking at, entering a leadership or a technical role, it's there. Oftentimes for entry-level volunteers, we offer event coordinators. They become speakers and moderators for different events, or ambassadors, or they work to promote our mission and goals and values through social media. So on to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are recognized for the third year in a row as one of Canada's top 5 nonprofit employers with under 20 staff, which is quite remarkable because we still are pretty much a grassroots organization, being around going on 7 years. And we're very proud of this. And we thank Charity Village for recognizing our efforts and our work these last several years. Next slide, please. And so I'd like to highlight some of the shining stars in our organization. Julia Boswell is a young woman who reached out to us at the start of our organization, who was asked to transition over and be responsible for security and compliance within her organization. She had no background in tech, and she was really working more in an office type setting with those kinds of responsibilities. But through the support from our organization and with us coordinating and communicating with her employer, they've also been very supportive. Julia today works to advance her security team, and she is the security compliance lead, and she has 2 direct reports. So she's currently working in software manufacturing in Vancouver, BC. And next, a next shining star, which I like to talk about, is Nancy Johnson, who we do have on the line. She is a senior security resource. I will say that, but she's been an advocate and an ambassador for us, working with us, and working with other organizations to support women in cybersecurity, and for specifically International Women in Cyber Day, by meeting with Mayor Danny Breen in St. John's and accepting the International Women in Cyber Day proclamation several years in a row. And I believe she still works with the software development organization in St. John's, and I just want to give a shout out to her. Thank you, Nancy. The other 2 women, Veronica and Sneha, these were recipients of our scholarship award in 2021 through CompTIA. They completed the training for Security Plus. Now, I will say Security Plus certification is an agnostic, industry recognized, globally industry recognized certification. And women and people that have it, it's kind of next to, like, or comparable to CISSP in some regards. But it is agnostic and industry friendly from that perspective. Both of these ladies completed the 1-year Security Plus instructor-led training. It was all done online. And one is Veronica's from the US and Sneha is from Canada. She was living in Newfoundland for a while, but now she's back in Vancouver working in the healthcare sector. And for Veronica, she was working in the financial services in New York. Now, Veronica, and speaking with her, when they did both of them speak at our last International Women in Cyber Day conference. And she said she attributes her success to the mentoring and support that we provide, along with, her own dedication and determination to work hard to achieve her goals. And the same with Sneha. She was really happy, and she said her success comes partly from the support that we provided and the mentoring that we provided, but also through her hard work and dedication to succeed. To reach that goals. And both of them, as I mentioned, are actively working within the industry, and they're making over 6 figures. So it can tell you just how long and how fast you can go within, with the right support and with the right, determination. So no one's handing you anything for free. You have to work hard. Even if training is provided for free, you still have to work hard and contribute to your success. And like Julia, you know, when she started out, she's only been working in the industry about 5 years. And here she is in a leadership position, decision-making, and has 2 direct reports. Very proud of all of these young ladies. Next slide, please. So if you want to reach us and you have any questions, we have various communication channels. You can interact with us through our Slack. So like I said, if you create that free account, immediately you're going to get access to our Slack channel, where you have your meet like-minded women, hundreds of them, who are at various stages of their career that can provide you with peer mentoring, group mentoring, access to different opportunities, expand your network, a whole host of different benefits by joining the Slack community. You can also go to our website. The website also has a chat feature. You can send your messages in there, which we do have someone monitoring that regularly, and they respond within usually 24 hours or less. And social media, we ask you to follow us, support us across social media as Canada's first and only women in cybersecurity nonprofit. And I say that because Canadian-based nonprofit, but comment, like, and follow us on LinkedIn, X, or as you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Next slide, please. So International Women in Cyber Day 2024 is coming up this year. If you'd like to get involved, become an ambassador, or learn more about it. So the 2 full goals for International Women in Cyber Day is raise awareness about the issues impacting women's ability to be successful in this industry. And secondly, to celebrate their achievements, give them the recognition they deserve in this industry. Next slide, please. And that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank you for the opportunity again to speak and to raise awareness about our organization and provide those information and resources for women and others who are considering a career in cybersecurity. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lisa. Next up, we have Nancy from CoLab. I'll pass it over to you, Nancy.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to present today. My name is Nancy Johnson, and I'm a local cybersecurity professional here in St. John's. I've been working in both tech and cybersecurity for the last 25 years. 19 of those years have been primarily focused in cybersecurity. Next slide, please. I graduated from Memorial with a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in psychology. And after graduation, I did a graduate program in IT. Interestingly enough, many of my industry colleagues that pursued a career in tech years ago, they didn't have a computer science degree either. A lot of people back in that time actually had degrees in biochem, geography, education, and the arts. Throughout my career, I've worked in multiple sectors, hardware, accounting, hospitality, healthcare, and software. In addition to working full-time, I've achieved several industry certifications, like Security Plus, like Lisa had mentioned, CISSP, CRISC, which is Risk and Information Systems Control, and EJPT, which is a junior pen testing certification. Currently, I'm working with a local software company as the Director of Risk and Compliance. So I oversee the risk and compliance programs for our company, and I hold various government security clearances required to support our customers. I'm also actively involved in the security community. As Lisa mentioned, I've done some work with the Women Cybersecurity Society. I'm currently one of the lead organizers for the B-Side St. John's Security Conference, which is one of the longest running security conferences in Canada, and one of the most popular security events in the city. So we do that in September of every year, and I think we've been doing it for probably about 11 or 12 years now, which is fantastic. I have participated as a panelist for various local talks pertaining to cybersecurity careers, diversity in tech, I also mentor some local people here in the city who are interested in starting their career in cybersecurity, helping them refine their resumes and just finding other opportunities. Next slide, please. So we've touched on this, I know, throughout the presentation today, but I just pulled a few stats together. So why are cyber professionals in demand? I thought some of these stats were quite interesting, actually. So any device that is connected to the internet is vulnerable to cyber attacks. Worldwide, there will be about 38 billion devices connected to the internet by 2025, which is amazing. Cyber attacks happen every 39 seconds. If you're in the field, you'd believe that statistic. Average ransomware payment in 2023 in Canada was around 1.13 million. 1 in 6 cybersecurity jobs go unfilled, which represents one of the country's biggest challenges for the digital economy. And I think we've all sort of reiterated that throughout our presentations. 10 to 20% of the cybersecurity workforce in Canada identifies as female. And I know when I started cybersecurity back in 2005, I was often the only female in the room at training and conferences. But thankfully, I've seen some changes over the years. But like everyone else, I feel like we still have a lot of work to do in that area. So as you can see, the need is great, and there are not enough highly skilled people in the industry to keep up with the growing demands. So there's various career paths you can take, and I found this chart, which I thought was a great summary of the career options available. So there's an engineering career path, which involves designing security controls within networks, applications in the cloud. There's a testing career path, which involves testing systems, applications, and networks for vulnerabilities and weaknesses. There's an analysis component, which involves analyzing data, systems, and patterns to understand and mitigate threats. And there's a response career path, which involves responding to breaches to minimize damage, eradicate threats, and restore operations. And there's also an auditing component, which involves auditing systems and operations for compliance and best practice. And this is essentially what I'm doing in my current role today. Next slide, please. So I'll take you briefly through my career journey over the last 25 years. I began my journey in Ottawa. So when I graduated, I moved to Ottawa. At the time, the tech sector was booming because of all the buzz around Y2K. So I got my first job in a call center, providing customer support for a hardware manufacturing company. It was a really tough job with lots of shift work, but I look back on this now, and it really provided me with great experience on how to deal with customers and colleagues. And it also gave me a solid technical foundation for providing support, which was great. It also opened up another wonderful opportunity for me. About 6 months into that position, I was contacted by a recruiter and hired by an international accounting firm as a network administrator, desktop support specialist. So I was responsible for the administration of the network, doing backups, patching servers, and providing technical support to my colleagues. So as you would imagine, being in an accounting firm, tax periods were very busy times of the year, a very demanding job. So I was responsible for providing support and also providing training on various technologies that we would roll out throughout the firm. So after about 3.5 years, I decided to move back to Newfoundland. So I packed up everything, went back, and about 6 months later, I was hired by Fortis Properties. So they owned 23 hotels across Canada, and they owned real estate in various provinces. So I spent many years of my career there, about 12 years in various roles. So I initially started off computer support, supporting over 1,300 users. I moved into a network support position. So I was setting up firewalls, troubleshooting network issues and outages, and then got promoted to a security and compliance analyst. And I think it was at Fortis that I really started my career in cybersecurity. There was a need to implement security controls and technologies for our corporate environment and throughout all of our hotels. And hotels collecting credit card information, as you would imagine, they have very specific compliance requirements called PCI. So they needed somebody to lead that initiative, and I was promoted into that position. We were also undergoing several internal audits throughout the year, just because we were publicly traded at the time. So I would work with the auditors, give them requested evidence, review our processes, make improvements, and make sure that our teams were successful throughout the year during our audits. Also during this time, I was provided with a lot of opportunities for training, which essentially set me up in my career. And I was able to get some great certifications, which I currently hold today and that I reviewed earlier. After 12 years of working at Fortis, I was looking for a change and an opportunity to try something new. So I took a position as a senior security analyst. And I was fortunate enough to meet someone in the local security community who's doing work for us at Fortis at the time, and he became a mentor. So he provided a lot of encouragement, got me involved in local meetups, got me involved in volunteering with B-Sides. And interestingly enough, at the time when I applied on this job, I applied for a junior role, and they had a junior and a senior position available. And when I applied on the junior role, he actually encouraged me to go to the interview and sell myself as a senior. He knew my background. He knew what the employer was looking for at the time. He knew that there was some resourcing issues there. So he knew that I could definitely do the job. So I went into the interview, sold myself for that senior position and got the job, which was amazing. I was involved in the day-to-day security operations, spent a lot of time on special projects, doing risk assessments and writing reports. A lot of the project work that I did was tied to government funding for healthcare initiatives. So it was very valuable and important work at the time. After many years as an analyst, I was promoted to provincial security manager. I managed a team of 14 people. I was heavily involved in the day-to-day operations and provincial projects. I would have to say that period I spent as a security manager was probably the most challenging time of my career. I managed people, a team of 14, and managing people in general was new for me. My team was quite large, and some of my team didn't have a lot of technical experience, which required a lot of mentoring and guidance. Working in healthcare during the pandemic was extremely difficult time for everyone. We were setting up COVID testing sites, dealing with resources moving into specialized COVID units, setting up vaccination clinics, and dealing with a lot of demand. And at that time, when we were recovering from, some of the work from the pandemic, we actually had a cyber attack that crippled our provincial healthcare system. While this was definitely the most stressful time in my career, I'd have to say, I would also say that I gained invaluable experience and knowledge that most people will never have the opportunity to obtain. Well, at least I hope not anyway, under those circumstances, but it was definitely a great experience for me. Just shortly after, I was approached by a colleague of mine who I volunteered with, and he encouraged me to apply on a position that he was hiring for. I was offered that position at a local software company. Really excited to go back to private industry and work with a startup company. I was hired for compliance, and I was hired to help the company achieve SOC 2, which is considered industry standard for companies offering software in the cloud. Large enterprises want to make sure that you have all the best practices and security controls in place. So this is sort of what they use to demonstrate that to a lot of their customers. Over the past 2 years, our company has been expanding. So I was promoted into manager of risk and compliance. And most recently, I was moved into a director position of risk and compliance as well. So next slide, please. So I know that was a lot of information, and you know, it was my career journey over the last 25 years in a nutshell. The big question is, I guess, how do you get started? My first suggestion would be to get involved in the local security community. It's a great way to meet people in the industry, surrounding yourself with people who have similar interests, learn about their career, and learn about the companies that they work for. You need to put yourself out there and establish a local presence. And I've often done a lot of hiring, and it actually helps from a hiring point of view, because when you recognize a name on a resume, then you have an idea if they're a good fit. So that's very helpful when you're looking for job opportunities. This leads into my next point of networking whenever possible, attending local security conferences, meetups. There's often vendor training available throughout the city, and usually all of these events are free. It's a great way to learn and to meet people in the industry. And having a mentor is very important starting out. I know Lisa has mentioned that in her presentation. A great mentor can help you with your resume, help you prepare for interviews, offer guidance with special projects you might be working on, and just knowledge sharing in general. It's definitely helped me in my career. I'm a planner, and throughout my career, I've often reviewed job postings to kind of see what was in demand at the time, different skill sets, which is what really inspired me to do some of the training and certifications that I've done over the years. And it often piqued my interest in certain areas that I didn't know existed. Lastly, I would say plan and set goals for your education and learning new skills. Based on job postings and skills in demand, I would set goals for completing certifications and training, or I'd spend some time learning on learning about a particular topic. So I would, watch YouTube videos, do free training, look at various security resources, follow certain security researchers, their blogs and their posts. I think in an industry like cybersecurity and technology in general, I think it's very important to stay on top of all the new threats and technologies and keep your skills relevant. It's very important because things change so often. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I just wanted to wish you all the best in your pursuit of a career in security. We definitely need more people in the industry, especially here in the local community. I know even from a hiring point of view, it's very difficult to find skilled professionals. Also, if you have any questions about anything that I've presented today, or if you needed some guidance, you can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'd be happy to help and answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nancy. All right. Now for the Q&A portion of today's event. Let's see if there's any questions. All right, here's one. Is there room for job shadowing someone in cybersecurity to see how a day would look? Go ahead, Lisa.
So this is a great question, and I've gotten this a lot in the past. Typically, if you're not working with an organization, it's very hard to say, hey, I want to come job shadow. But what a lot of people can do, if you're interested and you're working in an organization already that has a cybersecurity department, you can go and speak to the manager leading that team and express your desire to transition over or to learn more about cybersecurity, and let them know what your goals are. And oftentimes they'll give you an opportunity to job shadow with someone in the field. And I've done it before, where someone is working with me and they're just watching what you're doing. They're just a hands-on or hands-off observer within the room. And from time to time, you know, it's a very valuable experience. But typically when you're even if you're in an internship position, there may be opportunities for job shadowing. Now, this might be something Tim could speak on. I'm not sure with the internships offered through their organization. But if you have a desire for that and you're working somewhere already, reach out to HR, reach out to the hiring manager and let them know what your skills or what your desires are, what your goals are, and tell them that you know, and particularly look to see if there's any jobs that are being advertised on the company website related to cybersecurity or security administration, even like jobs in desktop support or providing online support, customer support is very valuable, because that kind of becomes the basis of your understanding of some of the critical areas in cybersecurity domains, just one of them. So that would be my recommendation.
Love that. Great advice. Tim, I see you were in the chat. I'm not sure if you answered the question or not, but someone was curious about the program timings and whether the cybersecurity training and work integrated learning program will be listed for Newfoundland.
Yeah, no, great question. I did post the answer in there, and I don't know which additional institutions across the country are going to be included in the phase 3 that I talked about. I know that there will be more than we currently have. I think we have 7 at the moment, but I'm not involved in that decision making as to who the additional post-secondaries will be. Hopefully, there will be an opportunity either with one of the institutions here in Newfoundland and Labrador, but I just don't have any further information on that at the moment.
Certainly stay tuned to their website to see if there is any more information about that. Someone asked, do cybersecurity jobs require you to be a Canadian or permanent resident? I graduated with a computer engineering degree from Memorial University and is interested in the cybersecurity field.
I can add something to that. I think most employers will actually specify that in their job description. I know we have a position posted for IT, but it'd be similar to security. Some of our customers have government requirements. You need a certain security clearance in order to handle their data. So you would need to either be a Canadian resident or have your Canadian citizenship, but usually that's specified in the job description.
Perfect. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Typically, it really depends on the role itself, but for entry-level roles, a lot of junior roles, they don't require like a background full government level 1, level 2 enhanced security screening or anything like that. You know, but if you're looking at a government role or transitioning into a senior role where you have a lot more responsibility, or you might have elevated access to critical systems and data, then a security clearance would most likely be required. However, there's other levels of security clearance when you're taking on a security role in general, which are not necessarily like federal government regulated, but they could be like a background check, a criminal background check, or a credit check, something to that nature, just to ensure. So even if you're coming over as from another country and you're a new immigrant to Canada, you might want to just reach out to organizations to see what is required before you apply, or just talk to some recruiters, local recruiters in the area. Also, Nancy had, some great comments on reaching out to the local security community and speaking with those folks, because they will tell you, which jobs you can and can't apply for, or which ones that you might want to focus your energies on. So I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sarah,
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to that, I think everything Lisa mentioned, absolutely right on. And just a bit of personal experience. So with our pilot, we've engaged with a number of organizations, both private sector and government. And the requirements seem to vary depending upon who the employer is. So, for example, we're engaging with the community, what is it? I always forget the government. Is it CSE? Yeah, community. Yeah. So CSE, they've got a very, very stringent requirement, and I think you need to be a Canadian citizen in order to be able to work in that organization. Whereas I'm working with an employer partner in New Brunswick, and they basically have said, so depending upon who the client is that you're working with, if it was a significant industry player or a government, then you'd need a certain type of clearance. But if it was just a less involved or working in a different function, then maybe it's just your sort of a criminal record check or something like that. So it's a very wide spectrum of what the requirements are. I guess the other thing I'll share is that, and it's really funny because some of the organizations that we've partnered with that are working specifically in the cybersecurity space. So some of them say, oh, no, we have to have in-person only positions. And others have said, oh, no, we're a remote company, so remote positions are fine. So it really is quite interesting to see that spectrum of where people fall. But I think it's a great question, and I think both suggestions of just engaging with the employer and just and others in the community and see what their recommendations are.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim. Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I recall the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity does have a website dedicated to that question, actually, if you want to work with them and what security clearances are required. So just Google careers at the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, or if you're looking for more intelligence level roles, you can look at CSIS, Canadian Intelligence Service for Canada. Also, the RCMP website will also have various, because they're the ones that do all the background checks in Canada. So they'll have various information and recommendations on what the requirements are from a security clearance perspective would be. So the RCMP, CSIS, and the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We have time for one more question. Someone asked, what is the likelihood of finding a cybersecurity job entry-level type with no university, just micro-credentials? Go ahead, AJ.
That's a really good question. I don't have a specific answer for that, though I would say, depending on the employer and depending on the candidate, really depends on their experience that they may have. I think the micro-credential can give some value. Certainly, though, at this point, we've only launched the micro-credential for a year. A lot of the students went through either the SD program or they've been working in software development. That's been more the crux of where people have come from. But I think as the demand for this grows, there's opportunity to, coming from adjacent markets, to have that experience and leverage the micro-credential course as an entry level. But it will depend on the employer. And others on this call, like Lisa, may have an opinion as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the two ladies that I mentioned, they had micro-credentials and they were successful. Same with a lot of other women that I've mentored. They don't have now, I mean, for me, my experience is very diverse, but it anywhere goes from people with, bachelor's or master's degree that are coming and can't find work, and they're doing micro-credentials. They're looking for specifically to learn more about what micro-credentials can prepare them to be better, up to date in the field and feel more confident. And again, like that is what employers are looking for. They do want that a depth and breadth of foundational knowledge that a traditional program or degree in cybersecurity offers. That was the traditional way I went, same with Nancy, but times have changed. And I've seen a lot of women who have just done micro credentials and then get certifications and are making, 6-figure salaries today. So yes, it's quite possible.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here today and speaking on cybersecurity. We really, really appreciate it. All right.
For the opportunity.
Thank you. So we ask that you tell us about your experience today. You can scan this QR code here. It's a very short survey, and your participation is voluntary and confidential, of course. So I'll just leave this up for a second, and it will also be linked in the chat. And we will also be sending it out in an email after the event. All right, and I'd also like to add that we have 2 more of these events upcoming. We will have a mining focus session on March 6th and an oceans and marine session on March 27th. And you can follow us on social media to stay up to date on all upcoming events. We do a lot of events speaking to women in all different sectors, so there we go. And thank you so much for attending today. We hope you learned something from this event. Thank you. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.